So I look back at that decision, and that single decision that she made is the reason I'm here today to speak with you here in Arizona, right, in Phoenix. The fact that I work for these companies like Google and Facebook and had this channel that impacted like hundreds of thousands or millions of people, I realized, okay, this is just a very little stepping stone compared with the mission that I have.
You have wondered what you would be able to do if you were the ultimate version of you, right? You would then have an easy time creating what you want, and yes, effortlessly enjoying life too. Now, you may know this already, the influence you have over your reality is far beyond what you've been told. Soon, you realize that your outer world is merely a mirror of your inner world, and we're here to connect the dots for you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to GODMODE.
Welcome back to God Mode, everyone. This episode, we have Cristian with us from Romania. Now, he's a very special gentleman to me and to the world of Upgrade. And when we first met, I could already tell he's very special, and he had done great things. But I didn't know that he was already an expert programmer and had worked in wonderful, wonderful big tech and learned great skills and brought it to his business. And recently he had just sold his business. And I want to bring him here because he's here with us in our Upgrade OS training. And I had been talking with him, and he had given me some very unique perspectives of where he started and where he's going and what he's going to do for his people and the area of Europe that he's from. And I want him to speak to you and share with you a little bit about his perspective. Well, let's go.
Thank
Welcome.
you for such a great introduction. I appreciate that, and it's good to be here on this podcast that I used to listen to a lot, and I still do. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's good to finally have you on God Mode.
Yeah, excited to be here, and yeah, after this week of training, man, such a great thing to stay together and have like this chat here. Yeah.
Yeah, let me say this, and this is why I think it would be valuable for our audience to hear from you. So when I met you and having heard just even a little bit about what you were doing, I was like, I feel like Cristian is going to be a perfect person to have interviewed on God Mode because you're living that life that I feel like God Mode exemplifies. So tell me a little bit about when we first met, what you were doing. And I know you were working at Google and where else? Tell us more.
So yeah, a little bit about my background. I used to be a software engineer, so working for these companies like Google and Facebook. After that, during that time, I started my YouTube channel, which like became very popular in Romania. So I'm sort of a known person in Romania. Like people stop me on the street and take pictures and all that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I quit being a programmer, started my business, which was still related to the tech space as well. And recently I just sold my business. So the moment we met, like it was like a year ago, around that time, I was basically running my business. I was doing pretty decently, like I had a comfortable life with that business, and running my YouTube channel as well on the side of that. Yeah.
And so what made you quit programming and just focus on your business?
Whoa, that's a good question. So for me, I couldn't see myself being a programmer for the rest of my life because I felt this drive inside me to expand to other areas and this hunger, to learn lots of other things. And working at Google or Facebook was a dream. It used to be a dream of mine, right, for like 10 years or something. And I remember that the second week I got there, I said, okay, I don't want that. For the rest of my life. Of course, I didn't quit right then, but I still use it to learn a couple of things and leverage it in different scenarios. But that was the realization that I don't want to be just a programmer. I want to discover myself in many other areas and like learn new things and build awesome stuff. So being just a programmer was not enough. So I had to go do other cool stuff.
So then you built a channel and you generated quite a bit of views, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but there are, I don't know, millions of tens of millions or hundreds. I mean, if I include all the social platforms, yeah, there are hundreds of millions. And that's only for Romania. So it's Romanian content, which is like Romania is not the biggest country in the world, right?
Wow, and you did hundreds of millions of views.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And yeah, what I'm the most proud of about that is that the content is very educational, which is not very mainstream things, like challenges or like, other topics that get viral is like very education wise. And I'm very proud that I was able to take that boring subject, let's say, and make it into like viral content or like able to be digested by masses of people. Yeah.
Wow. And recently you sold your business.
Yeah.
How did it transpire?
How did that come to happen?
Yeah.
I was at an upgrade event, and 3 weeks after that, I did like when I came here, like for the last upgrade event, which was in the fall of 2023. I didn't know that I would sell my business 3 weeks later, and then I went home and I sold my business 3 weeks later. So there's an interesting reason behind it. So. But like a very simple, but like profound reason, and it's about thinking long term and what's my vision long term, and am I really committed to my vision long term? So after coming to the training, and you have the methods, and probably people that are listening know a little bit about it, but when you design like big picture and you design long into the future, you realize that, all right, this is the path, this is who I'm supposed to become. And the business for me was a way to evolve as well, but I feel like this was the point in time where I had to commit to a even bigger future than what I was building so far. So
would you say the training helped you make that decision?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I don't think without Upgrade, I don't think I were I wouldn't be in the position to sell the business, because I was in a way too attached to it. I saw the business like being bigger than myself. But after Upgrade, you use the term contrast, like building like the future that I wanted and the potential that I wanted to achieve. I realized, okay, this is just a very little stepping stone compared with the mission that I have. And of course, the mission right now, it still seems a bit impossible, because that's the purpose of it, right? But in order for me to commit to it, I had to take some action in the physical world, and that action implied partially selling that business and committing to a higher purpose.
That's awesome, because I think that our viewers and listeners are probably picking up that if you are so attached to something, not just because you're attached to it, but because you don't have long-term big plans, you might be attached to things that you should be letting go of or selling. You should be allowing yourself to move on to the next opportunity.
Yeah.
And it could be a business. It could even be something like a relationship that might not be healthy for the person.
Yeah.
But they don't know what else they could have, right? Because they never designed their future. So I think that is fantastic that you share that with our audience, because I think someone is listening right now that they will greatly benefit from what you just said. Now, I'm extremely curious, because you have goals that are going to be world-changing. I know it's not just going to help Romania. I know it's going to help the surrounding areas. It's going to help the Eastern blocs. And who knows, it may inspire the rest of the world. So to me, I am getting to interview someone who I believe, this is a hunch and a feeling that I got when I first met you, that I believe that you're going to be someone who will make a big impact in a worldwide scale. So I'd love to ask you, what are your plans?
Whoa, I appreciate you saying that. No pressure.
no pressure.
Yeah, so one of my core dreams is to bring a change in my country at first, and who knows, maybe after that, why not going it beyond the borders of my country. And that change implies, like raising the level of consciousness or like the mentality that Romania has in this moment. Because if you look at the United States and I was lucky and I was blessed in my life to be able to come here and work here for a while, and I was lucky to learn from people here, like you guys as well, but all the other companies that I work like a couple of years ago for, like I learned lots of things. But if you look to the Eastern European side or like the Romanian culture in which I grew up, it's a very big difference in the way things are getting done there and the way
Like
things...
what specifically?
So for instance, let's say the winning mentality. Yeah.
Oh, tell us more, because I think our audience needs to know this.
Yeah, so there's a way bigger insecurity in people in the Eastern European bloc, at least in Romania. I don't want to speak for other countries, but we tend, and I speak for Romania here, we tend to underestimate ourselves. So we start with the presupposition that we are smaller than the Western countries. That's why a lot of programmers in Romania, for instance, they charge less money than the US people, let's say, and they work in the same team, but one makes like, I don't know, 15 euros an hour or 30 euros an hour or USD an hour. And in US or like Western Europe, you can have like 90 euros an hour or like 100 or even more, like lots more money, right? So of course, like this kind of mindset believes that the Eastern European people have, they reflect themselves into the lifestyle that they have, right? Into the day-to-day lives. So I was lucky enough to come here and see this kind of mentality here, like when people really believe more about themselves in a good way, like they don't presuppose they are smaller than other people, or at least they see themselves equally like deserving more than the people back home. At least I see they deserve. Another thing I can go on like for
Tell us another thing. Yes.
Another thing is like how big people think in Romania compared with the US. So that's a massive, like especially after taking the upgrade training, I go home in Romania and I meet some local entrepreneurs, and it's the level of thinking, like the big picture they have is so small compared with like what I feel and hear here. And of course, US is very different. Like I really encourage people to travel maybe abroad, like to see like Europe culture and all that, because I guess it will be very revealing. But when you come here in US, everything is bigger. Like the streets are bigger, the cars are bigger, like the parking lots are bigger, everything is way bigger. When you go to Bucharest, which is in Romania, or like any other city, like everything is cramped. Like you don't really have that much space. So I feel that this also has an effect on the mentality of people. Like they think smaller because of that, because
physically the external world's smaller.
Yeah, exactly. It feels smaller. Like the apartment smaller, everything. Yeah.
Wow, what a fascinating. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something that I think would be interesting, and I'd love for you to, respond to that. So I noticed that you have this goal to change not only your country, right, potentially beyond the border of your country. And I've noticed how genuine you are about that. And when you meet someone, you could just tell that they genuinely are interested in doing that. And I actually believe you're capable of it. So that was the first time we met. So I was like,
Whoa.
Tell me more, right? Now, I have a design of who I like to work with. And some of which, some of the attributes include future leaders and future, people that make big impact in the world. And so when I meet you, I have this custom emotions that fires off. And I know that person I'm meeting meets the attributes, right? Coupled with the trainings that I've taken from David Morehouse with remote viewing. I'm not going to say that gives me...
Oh, don't tell me you looked into my future.
I'm not going to... No, I didn't. I'm just getting a hunch where I believe you, right?
Yeah.
But it's a belief that's strong enough that I'm like, okay, I need to hear from you now, because in 5 years, 10 years, I'm gonna say that you've done some crazy cool things in your country and in your area. Now, so here's here's what I want to ask you. In reverse role, how would you advise the people who are listening to our podcast, whether it's Americans or any English-speaking, individuals or audience in general, people who are interested in mindset, who wants to grow, who wants to help those around them? What would you advise them to do to take their next step? Because let me say this one more thing. Because even though you said the people in your country seem to have thought small, look at what you've done. You've worked for some of the biggest tech companies, regardless of whether people like those companies or not. You've learned some crazy good things from there. You've built a set of skills that's incredible, world-class, and then you take these world-class trainings and then you expand your mindset, you sell your business. You're living the dream of so many individuals, whether in Europe, Asia, or America. You're living the dream. So I want to know, regardless of that circumstance that seems to be limiting others, how did you get to this point, and what would you recommend other people to be able to do the same thing?
I asked you a question like a couple of months ago. I don't know. I hope it's cool to share that.
Go ahead.
So we were driving to have lunch, and we were in one of your cars. Can I say the car? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Ferrari. I don't know exactly the model, but yeah,
It's the F8. Yes.
Yeah, pretty cool car. And I was thinking, okay, I have this time with William. What can I ask him? And I asked you like, what's the best question I can ask you, or something like that.
I remember.
Yeah. And anyway, the answer, we got to the bottom of it, and the answer was very simple. And it was like 2 words. And those 2 words were think bigger. So to answer your question that you had here, for me, this was always part of my unconscious, like to have big impact. I don't know why it always was there. Now I'm just bringing it to conscious, right? To like having a detailed plan on how to do that. And I took action based on that unconscious pattern that was in my head of like a big picture view that I had. And the most effective thing that brought a lot of growth in my life was to be in the circles and learn from mentors that were ahead of me, like way ahead of me. The best cheat code ever. Like I don't know anything like better than this. And I will say one more thing here, that it needs to be a degree of trust in order to do that. Because especially coming from a person with my background, that I was pretty smart growing up or whatever, and there's a flip side of that being smart is that you think you know it all, or what can the other person know more than you. So I was a bit reluctant I was very skeptical, because you're also a programmer. Programmers are trained to think in worst case scenarios, right? Mm-hmm. What can go wrong? So anytime you are about to make an investment in something big, or like get to work for some company or travel some places, hey, what can I learn from there? I already know everything. But every time I made these kinds of investments in mentors, and I'm not just referring to Upgrade here, like I had multiple mentors around my life, man, I was so grateful of doing that. I mean, the worlds that just unfolded in front of me were like amazing. And I was humbled every time. So yeah, I think that that will sum it up. So think bigger, even if it's unconsciously. If it's not unconsciously bigger, make it conscious. And then mentors, be around people and learn things the fastest way possible. And apply them, of course. I mean, that's a byproduct, but you will want to apply them after you learn them. You don't have any other choice. I
like it. So then I have one final question for you. If you could do anything, for your people, what, and it's not done yet. That's not the only question.
Yeah.
If you could do anything for your people, and then there's no chance of failing, and you're absolutely going to succeed, what would you do for your people? And listen, everyone who's listening and watching, I want you to pay attention, because although he might be answering for Romania or the Eastern blocs of Europe, I want all of you who are listening, watching, to consider the same question. If you couldn't fail, what would you do for your family, for your people, for the people you care about, for perhaps your country or this world? So I'd love to hear from you.
Interesting question. So one answer that I have is talking about Romania. I would change if I would have like a magical button, but of course with effort you can get that and like good leverage. I would change the story.
Whoa.
In their heads.
Okay.
More especially, let's say the story of the Romanian dream. Because in US, you have the American dream, which is a set of values and, stories, maybe not the best version of it, but a decent one compared with other countries, that empowers people. Like you can do anything as long as you have good ethics, you work, it doesn't matter what's your family background and all that, you can do it, right? Whereas in Romania, or maybe other Eastern countries as well, a lot of people is like, we should leave the country. This is not good. We are not good as people. Other peoples are better than us, which is when you start life, the game of life with that set of principles, you kind of start with a not so good advantage, right? So
Wow.
If I were to do something, imagine if every kid that is born in Romania, in every, I don't know, at countryside or like in its city or whatever, gets born into a family that tells him like, hey, you can do anything and you can build great things here, and you can learn from amazing Romanian examples or like any other examples that are out in the world. I mean, how different would that be? And I'll say one thing about my grandmother. So my grandmother, she lived in the communist period, right? In Romania, it was communist like 80 years ago or whatever. And she had only one desire, like one strong desire, to have her children go to have higher level education, like college and all that. Back then, like when you lived in the countryside, because my parents lived in the rural countryside area, right? It wasn't something usual, right? People would go to the high school maybe and then get back to work in the, raising animals and doing this kind of stuff. But my grandmother had this strong desire to go against the normal, you would say. So I look back at that decision, and that single decision that she made is the reason I'm here today to speak with you here in Arizona, right, in Phoenix, because otherwise I could be like in some place in the countryside. Not that this is bad or whatever, but I prefer this life that I have right now, and the fact that I work for these companies like Google and Facebook and had this channel that impacted like hundreds of thousands or millions of people. It was also the credit goes also to my grandmother that 8 years ago decided that, hey, I will go against the normal thing and I will send my kids to college, and my kids that are her kids that are my parents are then instilled other values in me. So if you think about this perspective, what happens if somebody, like if you put a little seed in a kid's mind, now what would happen after 2 or 3 generations? What will happen if you change that inside you? What will happen for your kids or for your grandkids or grandkids? Like the change will be massive. Like in my family, it was like I had to be very, very grateful for my grandmother that she had that desire to go. Like she was a single woman because her husband was in the war or something. So she had to go as a single woman to, put the kids in colleges, not in the city that was close to her part, right?
Wow.
So that was like a very, very strong attitude from her, like good values instilled further in the kids. Yeah.
That is powerful. I think everyone has something to learn from what you just said, regardless of where anyone is from. In fact, what decision can we all make today that might be different than what is expected, that might be different than what's traditionally recommended or than our environment? What decision can we all make today that will set our future generation up for success?
Oh, yeah.
I think that applies to not only people in Romania, but the whole world. And hearing what you just said, I mean, that's very touching. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, my pleasure. I think it also helps to have a lens of gratitude looking at our ancestors, because of course they weren't perfect, whatever perfect means, but like what they built got us here. So we have a chance to do our little thing, to put the future generation much forward, right?
Makes sense why you got the views you got on YouTube. Wow. I think that there's much to be learned here, and I can see why I felt what I felt when I first met you. It's not an expectation. This is just me recognizing people that I want to help, that I want to see through, that you're going to succeed, and give you all the resources we can give you. Cristian, thank you for being here with us. This is an honor.
Yeah, I want to say thanks to you and the team as well. Like it's mind-blowing. I don't want to sound like overselling it or whatever, but yeah, this is just from me to you and the team here. Like, thank you. I really appreciate that. Changed my life. Yeah.
Much more to come, my friend.
Yeah.